Hello, everyone. It's Charlton. Please subscribe to my channel. Don't subscribe to my channel. I'd appreciate it majorly. So, anyways, this dude here, David Holmes, this is who everybody's talking about after the beginning of the impeachment inquiry. The two witnesses today were William Taylor, Bill Taylor, basically the interim ambassador to to the Ukraine, once Marie Yovanovitch has been recalled. She still works for the State Department. I think she's teaching or something like that. Once she was pulled back, and William Taylor, has been serving in her place, even though he wasn't officially nominated, and he's not actually the ambassador. That's what he's been doing. Anyways, this is one of his top aides who overheard a conversation between Sondland, the ambassador to EU, another individual testified today too, Kent. But this is what everyone's talking about, this conversation, because this is new. This is what nobody knew about. And, the suggestion is that this could be one piece that directly ties, the whole situation of wanting the investigation into the Bidens and other things, the meeting in the Oval Office. But the big thing is the investigation into the Bidens to the president, okay? Because, a lot of the Republicans are basically saying that, nobody, like Bill Taylor, never spoke to the president about these things. He is getting this from other persons who supposedly spoke to the president. Sondland's one of them, and they're going to hear from him either later this week, I think next week. I think Tuesday is when Sondland's going to testify, and he's going to be asked about this as well. But this was new. So supposedly on the 26th, July 26th, the day after the call, when Sondland was in the Ukraine, in Kyiv, because this dude works in the embassy in Kyiv. This guy supposedly, according to Bill Taylor, that he testified today. I'll play you the chunk of testimony that as he says it. This guy heard Sondland speaking to the president, and he could basically, I don't have my phone, but when he was talking to the dude, he could, when he was talking to the president, he could hear the president talking, which is frequently the case. You could hear somebody talking, especially if they're talking loudly, and he heard the president say, what about the investigations? And then supposedly, and that's it. I don't think there was any, clarification in terms of, I don't know that the word Bidens or Burisma. It's just, how about the investigation? How did that go? Is it, and supposedly he asked, this guy supposedly, I think, asked Sondland after he hung up with the phone. They're having dinner together. Does the president really care about Ukraine? And supposedly Sondland, I guess in a moment, never realizing that this was eventually going to be, something that everybody was going to know about, said that the president really cares more about the Bidens than the Ukraine. That's really that's what he mostly cares about, the Bidens. And that's what supposedly, was said and heard. That's what it said. That's what this dude said today. I'll play it for you and the various quotes. Sondland's attorney's already been asked, if that's true. He said he's going to respond to that, when he testifies. So he didn't actually say whether or not that's a fact or whatever. I was looking at all the different pictures at the U.S. Embassy in Kiev, because that's what this is from. I was actually looking for pictures of this dude. And I wasn't able to find, actually, this picture or any others. Not that it necessarily matters, but I ended up looking at every single, all the way back to like 2009 on their Facebook page at the U.S. Embassy in Kyiv. But there's pictures of Sondland there, as well as Taylor and Volker, the day that he's talking about. And this is one of them. This is actually the 26th, which, I'll get to that. I'll get to that guy's testimony. I'll play you what he said. That he says that Sondland and that his aide told him Sondland and the president were talking about over the phone. But this says the 26th. But I think I don't think this is the 26th. I just think whoever took these photographs posted them the day after they were actually taken. I believe this is the 25th. Okay, and it looks like he had just arrived in Kyiv. I don't think that Sondland was actually one of the persons on the call. I don't think that's ever been testified, but I'm not even sure of that, to be honest with you. But I do know that Taylor, when he testified today, he basically said, that at the time that this supposed conversation took place, when they're having dinner together in some restaurant in Kyiv, Sondland, his aide, was there. He was actually on the front, visiting the front in Ukraine in the war with Russia in eastern Ukraine with other Ukrainian officials, and that picture is right here. Okay, I believe this is Volker and Taylor, and this is them visiting the front. I'm fairly certain, and that's the 27th. But I think this is actually, again, there's just a day delay. I think this is the day that the conversation that actually took place that he was describing, because he's on the front, and then somewhere at a restaurant in Kyiv, Sondland and his aide and others were there, and that's where supposedly Sondland's aide, this individual, David Holmes, who's now due to testify Friday behind closed doors, not an open session yet, but behind closed doors. I assume he'll be under oath, so and it'll be sworn testimony. But in a restaurant somewhere on this day, and again, I'm just I think this is actually the 26th, even though it was posted on the 27th. This is the day of the call, because actually this same day of the 26th here, where this is Sondland and Volker, it looks like, and they both are introducing themselves to the president. They're all meeting. They're all having a dinner today, and there's Taylor, and this is the 26th. But I think this was actually the 25th, the day of the call. I don't know if the call happened, before this, after this. I'm suspecting, the call happened after this, and this is just a preliminary, just introducing themselves when Sondland had just arrived, as well as Volker, even though they spend a fair amount of time there, I believe. I'm not real sure. Just giving you all the, particulars. So, this is what he said, and this is what everyone's talking about now. And that's pretty much the extent of it. I'll tell you, there's not a whole bunch out there about this individual, David Holmes, his background, other than he's just, sort of a career civil servant. He's fairly young, though. But
last Friday, a member of my staff told me of events that occurred on July 26th. While Ambassador Volker and I visited the front, this member of my staff accompanied Ambassador Sondland. Ambassador Sondland met with Mr. Yermak. Following that meeting, in the presence of my staff at a restaurant, Ambassador Sondland called President Trump and told him of his meetings in Kyiv. The member of my staff could hear President Trump on the phone asking Ambassador Sondland about the investigations. Ambassador Sondland told President Trump the Ukrainians were ready to move forward. Following the call with President Trump, the member of my staff asked Ambassador Sondland what President Trump thought about Ukraine. Ambassador Sondland responded that President Trump cares more about the investigations of Biden, which Giuliani was pressing for. At the time I gave my deposition on October 22nd, I was not aware of this information. I'm including it here for completeness. As the committee knows, I reported this information through counsel to the State Department's legal advisor, as well as to counsel for both the majority and the minority of this committee. It is my understanding that the committee is following up.
So that's what everyone's talking about. Trump was actually asked about this. He met with the President Erdogan of Turkey at the White House. He was asked specifically, do you remember this conversation that they're talking about? He says, no, I don't. So, but this dude is now due to testify, David Holmes, on Friday, the November 15th. And, it says that, excuse me, per the U.S. Embassy site, Holmes is the counselor for political affairs at the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine. He is also a top aide to Taylor. Per Axios, Holmes worked at the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine under Marie Yovanovitch, the former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine. He is still working at the embassy under Taylor. Many are wondering if Taylor's testimony about an aide overhearing a conversation between Trump and Sondland is in reference to Holmes. So it's been confirmed by now. This was very early reporting. It's been confirmed. They're talking about it all over television. So, but he's supposed to testify on Friday behind closed doors, and that's pretty much the whole story there, dude. I mean, it was pretty boring today. A lot of back and forth. And if you like Trump, you don't care, and if you don't like Trump, you think it's big. I mean, this is just going to go on and on. I think that there's not a whole lot going. I mean, I don't see a ton of significance to this. I think this will have a little bit. I think Trump's going to lose in 2020. I mean, I think that's where it's all going to come down to, and I think he's going to lose. That's my opinion. I mean, I could be wrong. But I do think this will erode at it to some extent. Not tons, but some. Because, I mean, I tell you, the more you hear from these people, and when you hear about Bill Taylor, his background is exceptional. Exceptional, okay? Graduating 5th in his class at West Point out of a class of 800, and then immediately joining the infantry and serving in Vietnam and going into combat. I mean, this is a good person. And he was basically saying that it basically looked like what Trump and Giuliani were doing was in direct conflict with with the direct conflict of America's interests, And I mean, it just seems more and more that Trump basically is doing things that are in his own best financial interest. Okay, not just that, but it also, I mean, it seems like Russia, for some reason, doing things that benefit Russia seem to be in Trump's best financial interest. And that's just how it looks. I mean, as to any common sense observer, which is what I am. So, but I do think that Bolton testifying, if he ever does testify, I think that will be extremely significant and not good for Trump, because I think Bolton under testimony will be absolutely a very, very, very sharp and strong witness, and it probably won't sound too good for Trump, I would say. But so far, today was just the first day, and that's pretty much the story there, dude. There's some other dude who's supposed to testify too, Mark Sandy, works at the OMB. I think he didn't show up for his first deposition. But I do think he's going to appear on Saturday or something. I don't know what that's all about. And I'm just going to end this video here now. So, but this is the big deal today. And that's the story there. Thanks for watching my videos. Please subscribe to my channel. Give me a like down below. I'll see you in the next video. Later, man.